I think we're supposed to be already online, but just to make sure that everything works. Yes, exactly. Okay, we are online. John, Alice, thank you very much for coming. And today's topic, as we agreed, is going to be about emotional and spiritual balance. And well, I will gonna jump immediately into the question, kind of my favorite part. I'm gonna ask questions, and the question is gonna be why it is so important, you think, to have emotional and spiritual balance, and what does it really mean for you? Please, who wants to go first?
I guess that's me.
I was going to say Alice.
Okay. Yes, the brave one.
Break the ice. Yes.
To me, it's essential to who I am and to my well-being to have a spiritual balance, because that's who I am. Everything that I am or hope to be is connected to what I believe and um, what I believe on a spiritual basis. Um, I, it's my belief in God. It's my belief in that my belief in God is the whole. And if I can connect to that, when I connect to that, it creates my emotional balance. That might be hopefully I'll clarify that better as we go on.
No.
But yeah.
Awesome. No, we will be talking, and I'm sure there will be, at least we are going to start, and I'm sure as soon as we start kind of looking at that topic from different angles, the right definition, even if you are not coming immediately, it will come.
Right.
But I understand you are connecting your beliefs in God, or your beliefs in a higher power, or whatever your philosophy is, kind of bringing that emotional stability and emotional balance. It's like
right.
it actually follows. Okay. John, what about you?
So similar to Alice, I mean, I think for me, it's about my foundation. It's about kind of where I stand, and you know, it's Alice talked about. It is around well-being. I'm very much the person who focuses on those three pieces: that mind, the body, and the spirit. And even if I think about it in that way, the spirit is that bottom part. It's like it's grounding me, and it's holding me centered, and it gives me that strength as I move along to that body part of myself, to the mind part of myself. But again, it's my grounding and my foundation. You know, I also believe it is, for me personally, and I'm beginning to understand this more, even though this is who I am, that it is part of my work and the meaning of why I'm here. That my faith, and we'll get more into what that all means, but my beliefs and the grounding of my spirituality is really, I believe, part of my purpose and part of the reason why I have shown up on this earth. It has taken me a long time to recognize that, and now it's really about embracing it. And ultimately we can talk about that, but you know, to your question, it is my foundation. It's where I can stand firm. You know, and oftentimes, even in many disciplines, you talk about kind of the reed in the water, or something. You know, there's always something that's holding it down. And while the wind blows or the storms happen, to me, my faith and my spirituality is what holds me in place while all of this goes back and forth, and all the chaos in the world, you know, and the challenges that we have move around me. But that is my stability. That is my root, and how I'm secured.
Okay, nice. Again, I just want to thank you, John. First of all, thank you very much. And I believe that right now we are talking about something which is actually really deep, because when it comes to conversation about soul, and yeah, this is already serious talk. And I'm curious about spirituality. We are not talking about religion. We are not talking about faith in particular. We are using the word spirituality. Why do you think is the right choice of the word?
When you say, I'm not sure exactly what you mean, the right choice.
Well, yeah. For example, I'm going to give example. There are hundreds of different religions kind of around the world. And some people, like, for example, I brought up in a country kind of where religion was at that point kind of forbidden. And so as a result, I grew up totally kind of being in a communist kind of country, and there were practically no one was going to churches, and I was, so as a result, I cannot really say or talk about faith, but I can talk about spirituality.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying now. I don't associate, I grew up in what is called in the South a Baptist, but as I become an adult, I don't associate myself. I still go to that church sometime out of tradition, but that's not who I am. I don't associate myself with religion. I associate myself with spirituality. And to me, spirituality is the whole. I mean, someone that might be Jewish, Catholic, I still think the spirit is the same no matter what you call yourself. So
Perfect. That's
I don't myself, if you ask me, yeah.
That's very interesting because, I'm curious. It's totally fine if someone is, in a very particular kind of religious direction. I mean, I have nothing against it. I was just curious because three of us coming together, and to be honest, I had no idea. I mean, who believed in what. But right. I am very happy to discuss spirituality and how important it is now, especially when there are times of crisis. But as a habit, I'm just kind of digging a little bit into the words, just to see what everybody understands, when they say or pronounce certain particular word. John, what about your take on it?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Alice, and you see, I do this because there's certainly common themes in our experiences. I also grew up and would consider myself part of a religion, which is organized. It's more of an institutional type of situation where there's common beliefs and rituals that are practiced. However, that is secondary to spirituality for me, because what I believe spirituality is the individual. It is for me this idea that there is something greater than me. There's something that is again, if somebody calls it higher power, God, Mother Earth, nature. I'm very fortunate because on one side I studied religion as part of my education, and had an appreciation for all religions, which are institutions. But like Alice was talking about, as I grew older, I begin to understand the differences, because again, when you're young, you see the church and, from my experiences going and practicing. As I became an adult, I saw something that was more personal for me. And, even simply put, and I wanted to use the example. I thought about it this morning as I was sitting and standing at my kitchen sink this morning. I looked out the window and I saw a beautiful azalea bush, which we have here where I live, bright pink. And then in the moment, there's a tree next to my window and a cardinal showed up. I don't want to make this simplistic, but point for me is that I look at that and I go, there is something here, you know, including human beings, but I'm looking at this beauty of nature, and I'm looking at this bird, this cardinal who is bright red, who shows up and sits there. And for me, it is that moment of appreciation of life, of appreciation of something that's far greater than I am. And I'll just simply add that one of the things in spirituality for me is that there is an energy. We've been talking about energy a lot.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're in this moment right now in the United States where we're going through the spring, and we go from fall to the spring, and these continue. Just like when the sun goes down at night, the moon comes out and the sun rises in the morning, there is something far greater. And there's an energy out there that just continues to go, even while this pandemic is happening. There is something that is bigger. And so, you know, but for me, the spirituality part is to look at these moments of saying, wow, there's something bigger than me. There's something, you know, some people call creation, whatever, but those are those moments that I think are spiritual for me, that I can look at something and really appreciate even the smallest of things and find beauty. And you know what happened? It made me smile. It gave me peace when I looked at the beautiful flowers, when I saw this bird. And again, you know, it doesn't take away from all the other things that we've been talking about, but it gives me some grounding and some peace.
Very nice. When you describe it, when you talk about that, it kind of sounds really poetic. And yeah, it's really, really great. And me as a former kind of scientist, it's always like when scientists or physicists are trying to solve any kind of problems, I mean, we often switch into the energy kind of equations. As a result, energy becomes like a universal kind of currency. You know, you can always, if you have troubles to apply any kind of theory, you could always get into the energy, and then through energy equations, you could come up with solutions. That's like physicist kind of type of, you know, thing. And when you just mentioned about energy and something like when we grew up and become aware of that energy which flows through everything around us, it's something which unites us, everything. And yeah, that thing has some kind of magical qualities in it. Those moments when you know, observe nature and you feel you are part of it, and especially when you are able to quiet your mind. So as a result, you become even more part of it, because mind usually kind of create that kind of separation a little bit. Yeah, so that's the moment which I call kind of spirituality. And I believe there is no really, doesn't matter what kind of religion you belong to or do not belong any religion, you're gonna feel it.
Right.
And from me, like from my perspective, I think it's really important to have that, to remember and to practice that. I would say the moment to nourish that kind of nurture, I would say, to that moment from spirituality, because it gives us, at least it gives me, instant reframing power. When you feel like you are tiny, small part of something incredible and complex, I mean, like my particular issues become, I don't know, easier or less significant or not as heavy. It's almost like an instant reframing. And yeah, that's how, and also another effect of that, usually, when I become about my life values, it's like it goes like both ways. One way, if I am remembering about my life values, something which is really important to me, and almost like a philosophical foundations, that's also bringing closer to spirituality. Or switching off completely your mind and enjoying the, you know, the energy around you, also spirituality. Yeah, so that's those kind of type of, you know, moments which I would I would describe as a spiritual ones. Alice, what about you? How you could comment on that?
Well, I agree with what both of you guys were saying, and this spirituality for me is that center point deep within. Some people call it the gut. It's that deep within feeling, and I think when we look at it as spirituality, our spirit, we're less likely to judge other people where maybe we would where religions come in. We look at people as God's creation. Even in our imperfections, we're perfect because we can't all be the same. It's like a puzzle. We're all like puzzle pieces. If John and I and you, if we are all the same, there's no need for two of us. You only need one piece to fit. And that's how spirituality is. My belief, my core, it taps into all of our core beliefs. And that's what makes the picture up. Even though we're different pieces, you need all those different pieces to make the whole. And that's how I feel about spirituality. It took me a while to get here, and I'm still growing, and I think I always will be. But it's the best thing in my life, it's who I am, it's why I behave the way I do. It's why I believe in being kind. It's why it's just my core belief of who I am and how I'm supposed to show up and my purpose in life.
Wow. Well, Alice, I was listening to you, and through my mind, there were lots of kind of, I would say, not analogies, but some kind of metaphorical images are kind of through one of the images that, the drop of water in the sea, for a split of second, when there is a splash or wave, for the split of second, one drop might kind of separate from the sea, and from the ocean. And at that moment, it might realize that I am separate, I am individual, but first of all, it's a split of second. Second, the essence of that drop is exactly the same as the billions of other drops and ocean itself. That's what kind of unites, that drop with all the other drops. And even though you could, that drop could think about itself like, I am separate, I am very individual, I am unique. Well, yes, in some ways you are. And in some ways you are not. And that's, those kind of, I really like to play with the metaphorical things. Of course, maybe they don't give a full picture, but they give you a kind of glimpse of what it might kind of look like.
I think it's like the drop. Yes, it's individual, but it's the same when you look at the sea. We're in an individual drop, but in order for us to have the sea, which is the universe, peace, kindness, we're all the same, So spirituality gives you the ability to be different, but yet to be the same, because we're all going towards one goal. Each drop is still coming together to make the sea.
Yeah, exactly. So why it is so important? Or maybe some people believe that it's not important, but somehow I mean, we decided to discuss the topic of spirituality in emotional balance now, you know, when it comes to crisis. So why is that?
If I may, so building on what we've just been talking about, this idea of connectedness. So, right, when you talk about the ocean, you talk about oneness, you know, that we are individuals. And I think that's the beauty of this. Each one of us is different, but we are part of a whole. And I think what's really important right now in this situation is to recognize, you know, we continue to hear, if you watch TV, everybody's saying, we're in this all together. We're in this all together. What that really says to me is for us to be reminded that we are all human beings and we're experiencing this all in very different ways. But in the bottom line of this is that we're all humans who are having some kind of experience. When we recognize that we are connected, that energy, the essence of who we are, that spirit inside of us, we all are connected. And that falls into some of the spiritual belief systems of this idea of oneness, you know, and that even for me, you know, I might be human, but looking at that bird that was out, I'm still connected with that life, right? That life energy. And so that's really, for me, part of what's happening here on this emotional side is that we are not alone. And this has been one of the messages, is that we are truly not alone, that we are all connected, and that, you know, it's this moment now where I believe too, and this starts to shift the conversation a little bit, but part of this is that I've been talking about how we're also putting ourselves out there. I really believe strongly that we each have gifts. We, just as we're unique in our essence of who we are, I believe we also each bring a special gift, some recognized, some maybe not yet. And this might be kind of a life journey to recognize those. I know that my gift in connecting with the world is to bring that light, to bring that positive energy, to be able to, you know, some people may call it ministering. I may just simply call it connecting with others, you know, so that when I'm visiting people who are sick, or I'm, you know, in my institution, I'm considered a healing minister, where I'll pray with people. It's not about curing, it's about healing. It's about giving them a sense of calm and peace. You know, sometimes I'm asked to do sermons at church, but it's also the work that I do outside, which is working with people who have dementia and Alzheimer's. But simply being present with people, that is my way of connecting and sharing my gift. Again, it took me a while to recognize this. It will be a lifetime journey for me. But going back to my original point is that we all are connected. And for me right now, it's how am I going to bring my gifts out into the world to ease some of the pain, to ease some of the stress, whatever I might be able to do. And so ultimately, for me, it's called bringing the light into the world. I believe actually that our soul is kind of like a little, it's this spotlight inside of us. And you know, we have the opportunity to shine that light out there, but sometimes we want to close it in, and sometimes we don't even recognize that we have it. But I'm very thankful that I'm recognizing that, and I'm trying to, as much as I can, bring that light out into the world, like through these conversations. But that's where I kind of sit with it.
Alice, thank you, John. Thank you very much. Bringing light and get connected and allow that, I don't know, spirit power or energy, whatever you call it, kind of moving through you. I mean, is there any way how you guys particular doing it? Is there any, I don't know, rituals or any habits or anything you could kind of define, Alice?
Well, I do. I have 3 things that I do in the morning. One of them, I meditate. And when I meditate, what I'm trying to do is get my mind and heart to agree. Because my heart is always in the same place, but my mind, outside influence is always coming in. And, so I try to get my mind and my heart in the same place. Once I get my mind and my heart in the same place, I pray. And when I pray, what I'm doing is I'm presenting my request to God. I'm presenting my concerns to Him. And once I pray, the third thing I do is I do affirmations in gratitude, because I believe that my prayers have been heard and that God is going to affirm what I have prayed for. And I'm also thanking Him in advance before I see Him, which is what bring in my faith, and the faith is just, faith ties into all of that, because it allows me, by believing in something bigger than me, it allows me not to have to carry all the stress of the world on my shoulder. Mm-hmm. I can turn it over. I can release it. So that's the steps I go through. I meditate, I pray, I do affirmations of gratitude.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. John, what about you?
Amazing. I mean, absolutely in line with with my own practices. I mean, honestly, and it's something I wrote down really quickly, is that, in essence, when we meditate, we're kind of listening, and we're sitting in this silence. And when we pray, we put something out there, into the universe, up to the higher power, whatever that may be. And then when we practice gratitude, it really is kind of being thankful for all the things that we do have in our lives, despite the fact that there is a lot going on. But it's finding those pieces. One of the things that I do is that I do try to walk as much as I can outside in nature, again, because for me it's important. It provides clarity. But like Alice was saying, I actually have a ritual where I do my affirmations. And I have certain things that I do. It's almost like a meditative walk that I take. And what I'll share with you is that this is a practice that is I have to create habit, because I will tell you that for me, when those aren't aligned, and when something is out of this practice, I know it and I feel it.
Right.
And it's another reminder for me to get back to. And so, recently I haven't been able to walk, and I can feel it. I'm not in this rhythm that I've created, because when I do, and when I show up, I'm much calmer. I'm in a better space, and I'm able to think more clearly and respond to what's happening in the world versus reacting to it. And so that's where I think this alignment for me is really important. But I can recognize, because of that awareness, that when it's off, I have to bring it back again. And so, but honestly, what Alice was saying is so very connected with my own process as well. So thank you.
Awesome, guys. I mean, in my case, I don't have any particular specific morning ritual. So because somehow things which I do over the years evolved. I mean, in the early, maybe 30 years ago, when I started meditation, because of that martial arts practice, it was part of the kind of martial arts. And later, I realized that, well, for me, it was not ideal to have, like, to find, I don't know, half an hour or any particular place or any particular time. So I switched into the very different type of practice. Practically during a day, as soon as I have opportunity, even it's just half a minute, even it's just sometimes 15 seconds. So I'm going into those meditational parts, but they are spread all over the day. So I could catch myself meditating, when I have literally 1 minute between some things to do, or maybe when I just eat, I start meditating on like feeling my body and be really, really present. I mean, for me, meditation has like hundreds of different ways how you could meditate. Mainly it's to pay attention to where you are. It's not thinking about, not leaving your body, not thinking about something which is not here, not now. And so meditation for me is just paying attention to essentially your present moment. How do you feel? Or maybe how a body feels, or maybe pay attention to sound which you hear now, here, or sensation, relaxation of part of your body. One way or another, it's here and now, and preferably have no commands, like no verbal kind of chatter in the head. So that's meditation in some ways, can be spread around all day and can be almost instantaneously kind of applied 100 times per day. Mm-hmm. And and those moments can easily grow, because sometimes, we take shower and suddenly, boom, you are for minute 2, 3, you are really in a very quiet, nice space. Or it could happen anywhere, anytime. So what I like about this particular practice is that I don't need any special, place or time. I mean, it's always with me. Anytime when I need it, I just go there. And usually after that minute, I feel fresher. I feel like, I'm dropping stuff off my shoulders. So that's, this is kind of my, I wouldn't call it practice, but some kind of habit, the way I, I would say, touch that spirituality path. All right. So how much time do we have? We are perfectly the end of our conversation. So what would be, guys, what would be your kind of, I don't know, recommendation, advice, or observation, in order to wrap up our conversation about spirituality and emotional balance, especially now during crisis?
John was saying something about how we all have gifts and how this crisis is really allowing us to bring those gifts forward. And being completely transparent here, that's where I am in this crisis. I've always known what my gift was, that I was supposed to encourage others. But I've always shied back from it. So this actually sitting here and talking to two people that I have never met in person, and this crisis has brought us together. And my discomfort from not wanting to do, step out, I put less value on that than the whole of using my gift to help others during the crisis. So that's what I would encourage everyone to do. Find that gift within you and let your spirit use you in some way, whatever way, to reach out to someone else.
Very nice. Very nice. John, very
beautiful.
Nice. Thank you, Alice.
Thank you, Alice. That was beautiful. Yeah, I think again, what Alice said is amazing, and for me, again, it's about bringing that light into the world. Mm-hmm. But first, we have to recognize it in ourselves, and nurture that. But we all have it, and I think this is a time when it's incumbent upon us, even when in these difficult times, I actually believe fully that when we're giving it back out and we're connecting with others and we're helping in some way, we're also helping ourselves, you know, but we are creating that connection. And this is the time that sometimes when we are giving, we're going to receive, and it's going to connect us all together. So as I say, be that light, shine that light, and use those gifts that you've been given, because I do believe that they'll bring that emotional balance to one's life.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. And yeah, thank you very much, John. The only thing I could add to that is that, again, maybe I look at sometimes in a very pragmatic or practical way. I believe that in times of crisis, when everything is really shaken, when people are, I would say, losing ground, and they could easily be influenced with the negative emotions, or, I mean, there are news and there are special kind of lots of pressure from different sides. That's the time. That's a perfect time to find foundation. Right. Find something which will keep you firm. I mean, firm, I'm not saying rigid. Firm, I mean stable. You know, like whatever happens, you know where your ground is, and you know that, you know, you will recover. And I believe as soon as people will, you know, find that, that's what spirituality is really all about, because probably that stability is definitely will be connected with something bigger than they are, because that's where kind of real humanity and kind of rooted into spirituality. And yeah, so that's pretty much what I would say, that now is the time for people to, you know, to pay attention and find your true self or your true ground. And that's why I believe spirituality, you know, is so important right now. Just not to miss the moment. Thank you very much for your time, guys. Looking forward to our next conversations. I have no idea what will be the topic, but I'm sure we will come up with something essential and important.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Alice.
Have a nice.
Thank you, guys.
Alice. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.